All right, let's get our Facebook friends up in here before it's officially time to go. And there we go. Welcome in, everyone. Welcome in. It is Tuesday morning, July 12th, 2022, and it's time for an episode of Broncos for Breakfast. I am Nick Kendell and joined by, as always, Scott Kennedy. Scott, how you doing? How was your weekend?
Hot and wet. It was
Yeah.
it was a lot of rain. It's cool out though. After touching 100 last week, it was in the 60s yesterday morning. So didn't break about 85. So we're having May and July, which is kind of nice. Otherwise, good to go. It's another weekend bye. That means another week closer to football.
Yeah, only, what is it, like 9 more Mondays until the Broncos are kicking off in Seattle, where I'm at, and against the Seahawks, which will be a great game. And yeah, welcome to my new recording location. Hopefully the walls won't always stay this puke yellow, but I do have a
I
fun
like
little
it. I like
shelf
it.
behind me.
It doesn't on camera. It shows up just fine. It's almost like a peach. Honestly, it looks good. It's fine. If you start panicking about all the things that you should be doing over the next 2 months, time will fly by.
Yeah.
Man, I really need to do this by then. Crap, I'll do it tomorrow. Yeah, and then all of a sudden, time flies right on by when you're procrastinating on stuff that you should be doing.
Yeah, it's going to be a busy August too because we have all these backpacking trips and whatnot planned. So I'm sure we probably won't be settled until September, November. But rather take advantage of. We don't have any guests coming for a bit, so we don't need to make the place look totally presentable as long as it's livable. And already got that down, so I'm not really worried about it. Natalie, though, my wife, on the other hand, a little bit. She works from home, so it's just I'm sure it's driving her a little bit nuts. But I'd rather be outside doing stuff than decorating the house and getting things unpacked. So
yeah, one thing at a time. Pick one thing a day.
Yeah.
Like I want to put one thing a day a week. It'll go together. Or a day, put one thing a day away and it goes fast. I say that about once a week. I'm going to take someone else's crap in my garage and throw it away. It starts adding up. Time flies when you start getting older.
Yeah. Yep. Chip away. Speaking of chipping away, we got Ethan in here saying, "Good afternoon, Jets and Broncos country. Good morning to you, Ethan. Hopefully you're doing well over there across the pond in UK. Good to see you. Hopefully, I don't know. Is Ethan going to the Broncos Jags game? Is that a thing?
I hope so. I think we've talked a little bit about it. I think there should be a chance we get a chance to meet up because I think he said, "Hey, we can come stay at our place. We won't crash your place, Ethan." But pretty sure he's planning on being there.
Wow. That's awesome. Ethan, let us know to make sure you send pics.
What should be fun is we should go down to Brighton and watch Chelsea and Brighton. That's Saturday morning. That's what we need to do. At least catch at least one match. I'm going to drag Zach with me. He'll have fun.
For sure. That'll be great. Been to UK once, in London. Gorgeous city. Dale coming in saying, "Afternoon, Ethan. Good morning, Nick and Scott in Broncos country. Good to see you, Dale. Hopefully you're doing well. Hopefully you had a good weekend." EJ's in the house as well saying, "Good morning, Nick and Scott in Broncos country." Good to see you, EJ. A few more in here. Jan Fitz coming in. One of, if not the first time, catching it live. I recognize this name. I think Jan, but either way, we're happy to have you here. It's good to see you. Luke Wright's in the house too, saying, "Good morning, Nick and Scott. Awesome to see you." We got Gregory Vendeland coming in, predicting Russell Wilson's stat line this season, saying Russell Wilson, 7,000 yards, 70 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. That would be great.
See, with a 17-game season, I think you might have more than 7 interceptions. I mean, you've got plenty of time to get those others in, but it'll be tough to only have the 7 INTs on the 17-game season. Otherwise, I think you're being a little conservative.
Goodness, this is what I do in video games. I used to have it where I used to play NCAA football on the easiest mode possible, just to win the Heisman every time, and I would throw for 1,000 yards every game, and eventually it would stop counting. We can't go past this number for the amount of yards that you have.
When you think about it, though, 7,000 yards isn't that far out of the question anymore. That's about 400 yards a game. I mean, that's not crazy talk anymore. It really isn't. Not in today's day and age. You expect the top quarterbacks to throw for 300. Well, there's 5,100 right there. You throw in another 50. Carry the one, you're at close to 6,000 yards already. So it's not as crazy as it sounds the way the game is going.
Still sounds crazy because you have to be healthy for all the games. Still a little crazy. But no, definitely that'd be fun. Turn the Xbox off on that one though. But we'll keep going here. I don't know if we said morning to Luke Wright. Good morning to you, Luke. Hope you're doing well. Greg Smith is in the house as well. Good morning, Broncos for breakfast with his little egg in a frying pan and the croissant. Good to have you in here, Greg. Aloha to you. Colin Wood in the house saying, I've already rearranged my sock drawer, so I'm ready for the season. As I look just at a pile of my socks in the corner of this room right now from moving in. So,
See, I don't rearrange. I know when I'm out of socks, it's time to do laundry. When I'm out of undergarments, it's time to do some laundry. So I don't rearrange. They're in a pile. I wash. I put them away. There's no rearranging.
Do you have the to be folded clothes chair in the corner of a room somewhere? It's like, oh, I'll get to that, but you just wear it and you never really fold it.
That, or yeah, it's sitting over that. Or if I only have something on, if I take a shower at night and put a t-shirt on, I take it off before I go to bed. I hang it over that chair and like, this shirt's still good. I don't fold it and put it back away. It's in the worn kind of, but still ready to be worn again pile.
Yep. Especially for like bedtime clothes. Absolutely. Yeah. That's why sometimes you see me wearing the same shirt multiple days in a row on this because I'm just hopping out of bed.
I have 3 gray shirts that look just like this. Not quite. They're a little bit different. I'm like, I don't think this is the one I wore last night. I think because I hung it back up. I only wore it for an hour. But I have 3 of them. I think the other one, this one's got a little pattern action to it. I think the one I wore last night was plain gray.
Oh, man. We got a big super coming in here.
Speaking of coming in red, Gregory Vendeland. How new a name are you to our show, Gregory? I don't recognize the name. I'm gonna have to look that up to see. I'm almost speechless. It takes a lot to render me speechless. But coming in red on the super. Thank you, my friend. That is huge.
That is huge.
And
Thank you so much.
This is new. I just did a search on the name Greg, and I keep a database of all the people that have given supers. And I came up empty. So I think, when you're coming in, Greg, you're coming in hot. So, he wants to announce his presence with authority. You have been announced. Thank you, my friend. It's especially this time of year. We mentioned it last night. It's slower, which, when you're dependent on traffic and stuff, that means your revenue's down. So, and you're keeping the lights on, keeping my forehead nice and shiny in the dog days of July. So thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you so much. Gregory came in with the Russell Wilson with 7,000 yards and 70 touchdown comments. The first time I ever noticed that one. Noticed Gregory, but thank you so much, man. That's really, really helpful, and we appreciate you.
He was conservative with his 7,000 yards. He's not conservative on the super chat, that's for sure.
Absolutely. We also have another super coming in here from Max Power, 2 pounds coming in here saying, am I wrong to think Sutton will be the most productive? What do you think here? Scott Sutton, Cortland Sutton with Russell Wilson and then Nathaniel Hackett offense this season, the most productive wide receiver for the Broncos.
You could end up being wrong, but you're not wrong to think it. So as a prediction, I would say that is a good choice. Whether or not that happens, Tim Patrick or Jerry Jeudy, I think, are going to have something to say about it over the course of the season. But Cortland Sutton would be my first pick. I think I don't think it's wrong at all for him to be your favorite for having the most productive as far as catches and yards go. I think it's a really good choice. Now, we could end up being wrong based on it's the season, based on, like I said, Patrick and Jeudy stepping up, Sutton staying healthy, all those things. But he'd be my choice for most productive receiver this year. So that's a good shout, Max.
Yeah, I'm really curious to see what his role is going to be, given the Packers have utilized the big slot position more, and they really need their slot to function as a blocker in that wide zone run game. And that doesn't really fit Jerry Jeudy's profile. I think Jerry Jeudy is more likely to be a Z in this offense. And then you have a question about who's going to be the slot. You could see Cortland Sutton there. You could see Tim Patrick. I think you'll see some Albert Okwuegbunam as the big slot as well. But really, it's one of the big 3 wide receivers that is going to be the most interesting to me. They're still going to see a little bit of everybody play in those spots, but we'll be curious. All this stuff, new offense, new scheme, will be interesting to see how it all comes together once we actually have real tape to digest and come over the all-22 and everything. Jacob Foster, silent one, coming in here. As always, that's a name I do recognize, of course. Thank you so much, Jacob. I hope you had a good weekend. Happy Tuesday to you, and thank you for helping us get this Tuesday started off pretty nice.
I have a picture that is very similar to that. It's actually my wife, though. But again, you're only this big, so I can't tell. But it was taken in California with that background, kid on the shoulders. And I think of that picture, which is a great picture of my family, every time I see your picture. So not only do you come in with the support, picture always gives good vibes. every time we're seeing it. Good vibes, always, Jeremy. Good morning, Jeremy. Good vibes. And then here we go. There's Rocky coming in. Rocky introduced himself to us either last night or the night before. Longtime listener on Spotify, I believe he said, Broncos for Breakfast fan. So welcome into the live show. He says, good morning, Nick and Scott. Happy to be with you guys live for a change. Well, we are happy to have you, Rocky. We appreciate it. Lawrence coming in with some stars too, saying, good morning, guys. I'm tired today and I'm up at it and barely wiping the boogers out of my eyes. Well, thank you for the graphics. Thank you for the graphic representation. I realized it's like, man, I'm always tired. And then one day I got a really good night's sleep for a change, and I still couldn't see. I'm like, I'm not tired. I just need freaking glasses. That was in my mid-30s.
Man.
Like, because you feel like when you wake up, you're like, you just kind of got to get your eyes are tired, and you wake up and you pull. It's like, I'm not tired. I just can't see.
I'm blind. No.
Yeah,
God, hopefully that doesn't come from me. I last time I did a vision test was about 7 years ago, but I had 2015. I could read the line below of what you're supposed to. So hopefully, if I do lose my vision some, it goes to 2020. But we'll see. I think that's the benefit of the narrow set eyes.
All the staring at the screen will do it for you. I think it was I was maybe 31 or 32, and I was like, God, my eyes are killing me. I went and got an eye test. I'm like, yeah, and they wrote me like a mild prescription. I didn't bother. I'm lazy about that kind of stuff. Probably would drive someone like Nick crazy, who is a doctor. And I'm like, yeah, I'll go to the doctor when something's falling off of me. I'm like, yeah, I could use a shoulder. Anyway, a little while later, I went and I was like, God, my eyes are killing me. And I was like, wait a minute. It was 2 days after signing day, so picture being an accountant and it's like April 16th. And I went and found that prescription and it was like February 5th, 2 days after signing day, exactly to the year. I'm like, man, my eyes are just freaking cooked. I'm worn out from work. Well, then they eventually just went. But staring at these screens all the time, and I see my kids who are both, a baseball player and a softball player, and eyes are such a huge tool. Like, God, you guys are going to kill your eyes. All this staring at the screens, but, we'll get them fixed. We'll just have to fix them.
We got Fallen Sloth. Good morning, Broncos country. I hope everyone's off to a great start on a great day. Absolutely. It's good to see you. We got Anthony Ortiz, of course, too. Good morning, Broncos Nation from Connecticut. Dom's in the house. Good morning, Nick and Scott and Broncos country. Denver Broncos for life. Stephen Baumgartner's in the house. Good morning. Good to see you, Stephen. Michael Ronquillo, of course, as well. Good morning, Nick and Scott and Broncos for breakfast. Let's ride and go Broncos. And Max Power, too, saying good afternoon to Dale. Good to see you, Max Power. This is a name I don't really recognize here. Bobby Vincent. Talking about Russell Wilson coming in 8th overall. So before we get to Bobby, let's just kind of put this on a tee and get it rolling here. ESPN has been going around doing a poll of league executives, coaches, players, and scouts, asking them to rank. It's kind of like their take on the NFL 100, I would say, but it's more positional ranked rather than the overall list, which I think is great. Honestly, I'd rather have the positional rankings because different positions matter so much or have vastly different values. So have the quarterback ranking coming in with Russell Wilson coming in 8th overall. And at some point, Scott will pull up the ESPN article when we're getting into it. But Russell Wilson at 8 for quarterbacks in the league. Feels good to have a Broncos as a top 10 quarterback. Maybe you want Russell Wilson, though, to be pushing that top 5 at the end of the year, because that's going to be, the difference between the 8th-best quarterback and the 5th-best quarterback is probably the difference between Super Bowl contender and playoff contender on this Broncos team this year.
Maybe.
Go ahead.
Maybe. Again, you start looking at one of my first thoughts when looking at this list as I was scrolling down it. I think my first thought was, wow, Joe Burrow at 5. Yeah. That seems a little high. He had a good season last year, but he has other than the offensive line, which does matter, he had a lot of weapons around him, and he's good. Don't get me wrong. It just seems a little premature to say top 5 over a guy like Russell Wilson, who's got 8 Pro Bowls to his name. And in a bad season was 26-7 on touchdowns to INTs. That's his bad season. Yeah. Part of that, I think, is also the team. Quarterbacks, they say, get way too much credit for a team win and way too much blame for a team loss. So let's take a look at 2 of the decade's better quarterbacks in Russell Wilson, dropping down, just barely knocking on the door of the top 10. Matt Ryan, who has a chance to move into 5th all-time in passing this year, all-time, out off the list completely, not even in the top 14. So, 2 bad teams and the quarterback has suffered because of that. And the other thing I mentioned your when you were talking about, the value of the position. What other position would you give up 3 first-round picks and 2 first-round picks for the 8th and 9th ranked player at their position, like teams did for quarterbacks this year? I mean,
Doesn't exist.
It's quarterbacks and it's everybody else.
Yep, doesn't exist. It's all about the quarterback. So having an 8th overall, I mean, God, big difference for the Broncos. Obviously, Teddy Bridgewater and Drew Lock did not end up on the list, but Bobby comes in weighing in on Russell Wilson being 8th overall, and we'll get into that list here in a second. It's over on ESPN, and Scott has the ability to pull it up, saying, I think it's a fair ranking. Wilson hasn't been in the mix for a while others have been. All he needs to do is get this team back in contention for the big cheese. I like that, and he'll move up fast. Thank you so much, Bobby. Also, I missed this earlier. Rocky coming in with a 99-cent super over on YouTube.
Thank you so much, Rocky. Yep, thank you.
A little blue highlight there on that one. Good to see you, Rocky. Thanks for joining us. But Russell Wilson coming up at 8th overall. It'll be great to see. And Scott, if you would you pull up? There we go. Russell Wilson's ring. I'm going to make a big screen here so I can read it for you guys real quick. Russell Wilson over ranked Inc. His highest ranking ever was 4. Lowest ranking out of the top 10. I'm curious about the lowest ranking. Wouldn't everybody probably be out of the top 10? They're like rookie season. I don't know. I digress. But we have Russell Wilson coming in 8th, age 33 this year. Last year ranking 4, which is, God, that'd be great if he ranked 4 this season. I think there's a pretty obvious big 4 in the NFL right now, but we can get into that. Wilson, they say, though Wilson's status among the elite has been secure for the better part of a decade, his place in this year's quarterback pantheon comes with questions. He hasn't had a great 18 months on the field, to be sure. I thought he's been okay, but okay. The let Russ cook movement of 2020 provided fireworks in the first half of the season, but just 203.2 passing yards per game over the final 7 games as defenses adjusted to his deep ball. Then in 2021, Wilson posted a 54.7 QBR, the lowest of his career, though a finger injury that required in-season surgery clearly affected his production. He was missing layups, the easy throws he'd always used to hit. But then there's this. His absolute worst is still better than most. Drew that. With 65 touchdowns to 19 interceptions over the past 2 seasons, his 7.8 yards per pass attempt ranked fifth overall. Quote, I think you'll see a rejuvenated Russ with the Broncos, an AFC personnel evaluator said. They are tailoring things around him. He'll have more ownership of the offense and a good supporting cast. He will get his spot back. A veteran NFC personnel evaluator believes Wilson must improve in one key area that has resulted in 179 sacks over his past 62 games. He's got to get rid of the ball quicker. He puts the offensive line in a tough position too often when there's an easy first read. He looks for the home run and it hurts him. So there we have it. Russell Wilson at 8 overall. Scott, what do you think?
And one of my other thoughts on this was scrolling down one more and seeing, Deshaun Watson at number 9. And they didn't rank him last year, but you're going to rank him this year. That doesn't make any sense. Yeah. I think he's got this at this time last year. He's got about as much of a chance of playing as he did last year. Hindsight says 0. So he doesn't have a 0% chance, but going into the season, it wasn't a definite that he was going to be suspended. Going into the summer, it wasn't a definite that he was going to be not play the 2021 season. I think it's a very good possibility he doesn't play the 2022 season. So you're talking about a guy that hasn't played in at least a year. He's very good, don't get me wrong. But that one surprised me. And Falling Sloth has come in here with some good comments. Our resident Cincinnati expert. He says Burrow had the high, there's no need for an LOL. No need for that. Burrow had the highest accuracy rate in the NFL and the highest depth of targeted ball quarterbacks, despite the line number 5 is too low. Dude will be the greatest of all time. Mark my words. He might be. I just think I think it's a little premature to see him in the top 5. You're talking about guys that have done it over a longer period of time, that you feel safer saying, okay, I know what I'm going to get. I just think it's a little early to say number 5. And he's got, where would we put his, I guess we'd have to look it up, but where would we put his receivers in the NFL? Top 5? Is that a product of the quarterback? And could Russell Wilson end up moving back into the top 5 because he has better receivers than he has ever had before, depth of receivers than he's had before?
Yeah,
there's been a lot of investment into that Cincinnati Bengals offense, and they were 9-10-8, they are 10-7 last year, kind of snuck into the playoffs and then got hot, but they weren't a great team throughout. And again, now you're going to have a target on your back. Let's do it again. Let's say, like, I'm not saying it's not going to happen. I'm not a hater. I just say, let me see it again. I want to prove that last year was, that last year was legit, that's how it's going to be every year. Put it together 2-3 years in a row, and you got me.
Yep. And also there's the thing where people don't understand. I think it's just natural that linear progression is not really a thing in the NFL. I mean, if that was the case, then last year Patrick Mahomes would have thrown for that 7,070 touchdown stat line, but his stats and his play somewhat regressed some from his MVP seasons when the Broncos won a Super Bowl. So speaking of MVP, we got a big super chat coming in here from Ethan. Thank you so much, Ethan, saying any list that has Watson in the top 10 should be judged with the highest scrutiny. I know Rodgers is the 2-time MVP, but still number one. Nope. Hashtag Broncos for breakfast. I have no issue with Rodgers being number one. I think there's a 1A and a 1B in the NFL if you put a gun to my head. If you wanted to go Aaron Rodgers or who comes in number two, Patrick Mahomes as the number one quarterback, I would have zero issue with it, to be completely honest with you. I think both those guys have an argument. After that, there's a tier two, in my opinion, that is Josh Allen and Tom Brady. So I think they nailed the top four. Maybe not the exact order because you could flip one or two for me. But I think those are pretty easily the top four quarterbacks in the league right now. After that, then it kind of gets jumbled.
Yeah, Ethan coming in huge, coming in red. We see red and we're like the bull. We go right for it. So appreciate you coming in. And I agree. I think Watson should have been omitted from this list. I even may have put in a note at the end saying we omitted Watson from this list because there's no guarantee, just like last year when we left him off, that he's going to play this season. However, if he were to play this, he still garnered votes. This is where he ended up. I would have done something like that and kept him off the list and maybe said dishonorable mention. That would have been kind of funny, actually, and put him in there like that. And I think here, I don't have any problem. I'd put Rodgers number one on this list. Again, you said it right here. I know he's a 2-time MVP. Yes, he is. He's the 2-time MVP. If I got a 2-time Cy Young winner and I got the number one pitcher, he's going to get it. He's going to get it. Most of the time, the 2-time Cy Young winner. So I would have Rodgers there. And then Mahomes comes in number two. But again, all four of these guys got number one votes. So, you mentioned the easy four. I'm like, all right, well, how easy is it? Because off the top of my head, I'm thinking, Josh Allen's in there. The lowest ranking is 7 for him. I think there's still some questions about his accuracy. He looked terrible against the Atlanta Falcons, throwing 3 interceptions, which it's almost like they were just kind of screwing around in that game. Like they weren't totally focused on it. And then Tom Brady coming in 4. I would probably have Brady still in the top 3. Again, 1, 2, and 3 in that in some order. I'm not going to argue with you. And then I'd probably have Josh Allen coming in at 4 again, for the same reason I talked about Burrow, just a little more duration on here. One of the questions they had about Josh Allen is something that we've brought up is, I don't want him becoming, a Tim Tebow runner where he rushed for 1,000 yards. Great. He's beat to hell and his elbows are so stiff now he can't throw the ball anymore and he can't get any rotation because his hips are shot. He's got to calm it down a little bit as far as his running to have that duration. But Ethan, you're the man as always. Appreciate you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, Ethan. And I actually have this little nice list here, Scott, that I can pull up. Makes it a little easier to see all the guys ranked now that we're kind of past the reading of it there. But there we go. Nice little succinct list of the top quarterbacks there. So yeah, we have some questions coming in. I was looking at this one for a second here. I was about to be like, Clee, actually, you're incorrect. Jerry Jeudy played 300 snaps in the slot compared to 100 out wide, but you're saying Z is in asleep. So I appreciate it. It just hit me as I was like, oh, I got to correct him on this one. That's wrong. But we appreciate you, Clee. Also,
he wasn't sleeping. He was in motion. He was sleepwalking across the offensive backfield as he was running his fake jet sweeps, and he was in motion. So sleepwalking, yeah, I can get on board with that.
Yeah, absolutely. And Clee also saying, did Nick move? Been a while since I've been here. First show in this location. Moved this past weekend, which is not the most fun thing in the world, but luckily we had good weather. So I'm going to be unpacking here for the next few weeks. I did tweak my knee a little bit, honestly. That's my big bummer. It's like, it's kind of catching right now, a little sharp pain in there. I think I have a little bit of a quad strain or something. So got to work that out. But yep, did move. And somebody said Nick moved to Seattle to be near Drew Lock. Drew Lock followed me out here. Let's be real. I was an OG in that relationship at least. But no, we'll see how it goes this season. It'll be a lot of fun. I have not seen a single Drew Lock jersey. I still see people rocking the Russell Wilson Seahawks jersey though. So maybe when I go to the game on September 12th, we'll see some Drew Lock jerseys out there. But I don't know. If I was a Seahawks fan, I think I'd probably be sitting back and waiting to buy a jersey for a bit because I'm like, oh, DK Metcalf, oh, he might be gone here pretty soon. I don't know. But speaking of Z's, we got Z coming in here saying, morning, y'all. Hope y'all are enjoying your breakfast and coffee. I had a blueberry donut this morning. It was divine, and I'm having my coffee now. And Scott, you said your coffee was perfect.
It was it's just, when you're brewing your own, it's not always the same. So, the water can be a little bit different, temperature. And this one was dead on today.
Love
it. Good brew. It was dead on. So have to remember, I try and, it's just a little bit of water, a little bit, whatever. But it was a good brew this morning.
Yeah.
Who are the top 7, Colin? Yeah, it comes in here now. He did a much better job. I was going to scroll down here and say this. And Nick, I've been talking up Matthew Stafford for, since we've known each other.
Same. I mean, we both were like, Broncos should go get Matthew Stafford. He's so underrated. People were,
and he may have already, that trade may have already been made before you and I started working together.
I think it was. Yeah.
But I went and saw Matthew Stafford play at Highland Park, Texas, and he just has. I mean, I put him in with the all-time greats as far as arm talent. John Elway, Brett Favre. He has that type of arm talent, and he was a Detroit Lion. I mean, oh, well, he hasn't done this, he hasn't done that. It's the Detroit Lions. They arguably have had 2 of the best all-time players at their position. Matthew Stafford you don't get to say that about quarterbacks until they win and win big, which they don't do in Detroit. But you switch him and Tom Brady, we've got very different conversations. Tom Brady ends up being a nice quarterback like Matthew Stafford's been, and Matthew Stafford's all of a sudden one of the all-time greats. Justin Herbert, I know you're a big fan of his.
Yeah.
Russell Wilson, and then Deshaun Watson, and then Dak Prescott. Again, I don't have any huge problems with 9 of the top 10. Again, I would have pulled Watson out of there, and I probably would have found somebody else besides Dak Prescott.
Yeah, I probably would put Dak Prescott still in there, but I'd put Dak at maybe 9, and then Lamar Jackson.
I was gonna say 10. I could find a spot for Lamar Jackson. I do think Matt Ryan is going to be knocking on the door of this list by the time it's all said and done.
God, I hope not. I hope not. Not because I'm a big Matt Ryan fan, but if that's the case, that's just one more team that the AFC it's going to be that much harder. And if he's top 10, that's rough for.
And they're dying to put Mac Jones on this list. They just are. They're just dying for it. When they started talking about MVP, rookie MVP or whatever they got, rookie of the year, I'm like, you're out of your freaking minds. He's been okay, which makes him a good rookie quarterback. But, when you're talking about, was it Chase, Bengals guy?
Jamar. Yeah.
Jamar Chase, he was good, period. It's like top 5 wide receiver, good. Not good for a rookie. Mm-hmm. Get out of here with that nonsense.
Another quarterback here, so you were talking about that they really want to put Mac Jones on this list. I think on the honorable mention, which is not on this list, but it's on your article, somebody that they really want to put on this list is Derek Carr. Derek Carr, arguable top 10 quarterback, but man, the NFL, at the talking heads, there's so many people that keep saying the Broncos are going to be the worst team in the AFC West, and a big reason is because they love themselves some Derek Carr. I don't know if it's the Vegas market, I don't know if it's Devontae Adams, blah, 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 but Derek Carr is, I think, knocking on the door here for this list. I think he's just outside, though, personally. If I was ranking it, I'd have Rodgers, Mahomes, 1A, 1B. You already know that. I would have Allen 3 over Brady just because I think Allen can do more. He can actually go like God mode, where I think Brady's more dependent on the pieces around him being good. He's a master general, but he's not a creator, so to speak. Like, nobody played, even though they lost, the last game of the season that Allen played was one of the most phenomenal quarterback performances I've ever seen in my life. And I just think that he has that in him at any point. I mean, Tom Brady, I know it's not good to compare quarterback to quarterback in a single game when they play each other, but the Bills versus Buccaneers game last year, Josh Allen was a freaking god as well. I mean, he's insane. 5, I honestly would go Matt Stafford here. Then I would go Russell Wilson 6, Herbert 7, Joe Burrow 8. Like I said, Dak Prescott 9, and then Lamar Jackson 10. But after the top 4, it's pretty jumbled. I think while I do like the top 10 argument, it's kind of like how I like my fantasy football. When I make my own board, I go by tiers. So I think tiers are better. You can put guys in their own little categories. And then, if you want to argue the difference rankings in each tier, I won't fight you too hard.
I set up my fantasy football board, and here's a little fantasy football advice for you. By points, previous year's points or projected points, and then I do a difference by percent, run it down the lines, and the bigger the number of the percent, the more I want the guy with the bigger percentage to the next drop-off guy. So by doing that, that's kind of how you're talking about in tiers. It might be a 1% difference between 1 and 2, a 2% difference between 2 and 3, and a 10% difference between 4 and 5. Okay, I better make sure I get one of these top 4 guys. Yeah. At some point, these old guys have to start dropping out of here, though, don't they? Is this the year? Is this the year for Tom Brady? This is the year he's almost out of football. Again, I think so. I think so. I think the window in Tampa Bay is closing. They got there, so it's not even closing. They're putting a banner over it, a Super Bowl banner over it. So I do think this is the year. This is I almost got out of it, and at the end of the year he says, okay, now I'm definitely done. I think this will be his last year.
Man, I'm really curious. There's a little bit of smoke between Tom Brady and San Francisco. If the Trey Lance stuff doesn't work out there, I'm curious if something happens there where he goes back to his boyhood, home team. And
God, that's a lot of draft capital to give up for a guy. There were so many questions about him. That trade was so dumb.
Yeah.
Ugh. As I said, be in that spot, Miami just cleaned house on that trade. And I think they overpaid to move back up, considering they didn't get the guy they wanted, which was Jamar Chase. But still, I mean, looking at next year, looking at the draft for next year, what if Davis Mills has a really good year, but they're still number 1 overall? Okay. They could trade out of that spot and get a haul.
Yeah.
Desmond Ridder could be a player that could end up being decent for the Falcons, where they say, we want to come out of that spot and get a haul, or do you take Will Anderson? The draft this year is going to be fun again. The top of the draft this year is going to be very, very intriguing.
Yeah, will be fun. Some guys that we aren't even talking about yet, I'm sure will emerge as well. So that'll be great. We'll see how it works out. I mean, it's the same thing with when the Chiefs traded up for Mahomes. I remember sitting on the show with Carl on Building the Broncos and being like, listen, we're all talking about the trading up for an air raid quarterback out of the Big 12 in Texas Tech, and they gave up, multiple first-round picks, multiple seconds. But if he hits, it's not going to matter. Like it's a gamble. You're putting it all on red. But if it hits, then doesn't matter one bit. So we'll see. It is a bigger gamble though, because
there were more questions there. But he didn't come out of Montana State or something. I mean, he had more than 1 year of playing the game.
Yeah.
That was. I mean, you want to talk. There's risks, and then there's God risks that they taking Trey Lance on that. I was just about to click on that too. Lawrence came in some stars saying, guys, I'm sad we haven't addressed the tight end or a fullback. These are really crucial how successful Russ can be in audibling. So, the fullback position is dead. It's gone.
Except in San Francisco.
They rotate players, tight ends, into the fullback position, and they drafted a tight end. So Albert Okwuegbunam is good. He's kind of been my slept-on player of the season. They needed a tight end. They needed a tight end. Well, they got a tight end, Greg Dulcich. They got a very good receiving tight end who can drop back, and Andrew Beck can drop back and play in the backfield as that fullback, H-back type of position. So tight end and fullback are 2 of my least concerns on this team. Right tackle is still my biggest concern on this team, not tight end and fullback. The fullback is a non-issue. As infrequently as they get used, you can drop one of your tight ends in that position. And you did get a tight end. You got a really good pass catching tight end in Greg Dulcich in the draft. So I'm pretty happy there.
Yeah. Obviously last Wednesday, Luke and I ranked the positions on the Broncos, and I ranked the tight end the lowest. But that's because there's just so many question marks on it. But again, it's like if, let's say you fail a pop quiz and it's worth 1% of your grade. Okay, well, you're 0.5% of your overall grade. Let's say you got 50%. You're 0.5% of your overall grade behind. You're going to be okay. You have other means to make up that grade in the end. So the tight end being a question mark or a little bit weaker doesn't really bother me that much. If you have a great player there, that's awesome. But I don't think it's going to make or break the offense. As you mentioned it, the right tackle position for sure. And I'm just going to say the viability of the offensive line overall. I think they have a very high floor, But the difference between the offensive line being, the 16th best this season versus the 10th best this season could be massive. Because this offense, we talked about when we were reading about Russell Wilson, his offense and his ability over the last few seasons of being very linked to the deep ball. And I think that's going to be somewhat different this season with Nathaniel Hackett running the speed outs and the RPO and everything like that. But, and I think it was Nate Tice on The Athletic, he mentioned it, where it's like the quick pass game and the run game are a little bit redundant, but God, you have to be able to do one. And for Russell Wilson, the quick pass game over the middle of the field, even if I don't ever think it's going to be, Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, Drew Brees-esque for him in his career. It's just not his game. Would it be the height, the mentality? There's questions there. That means the run game has to be good. I'm not worried about the Broncos running backs, worried about the offensive line being that good where the run game can factor in and work to overcome the deficiencies in the quick short pass game.
And you've got a couple of good pass catchers, as you said, the redundancy in the short passing game and the running game. But those are good options. Lawrence has mentioned, being able to audible and get out of checks and stuff. Okay, well, I see this guy coming off the edge, but I've made a read that they're in a deep cover zone, not in a press. Well, I'm just going to drop it right over his head into my running back for a little screen, and he's going to go for 15 yards. So, a couple of good pass catching running backs. Again, the tight end is not my biggest worry on this team. Right tackle is my biggest worry on this team. And it's not a huge concern. No. It's just it's a yes. It's not a yes yet, for sure.
Yeah. Bama X in the house saying, good morning, Broncos country. Good to see you, Bama X. Better late than never. Kevin Gray also coming in saying, coming in late, but we'll be back and watch the show. Breakfast is my favorite. Let's ride. Thank you so much, Kevin. That means a lot. We appreciate you.
The most important pod of the day, Broncos for breakfast.
Absolutely.
We should put that in a tagline.
It should be.
Your most important pod of the day, Broncos for breakfast.
Should be a shirt. Put it on a shirt.
Trademark. Scott Kennedy Productions.
We need to get our caricatures on it, though, too. So we got to come with Zach and Chad. Colin Wood saying, Kyler Murray, question mark on that top 10. He was also another honorable mention. He's another quarterback here where I don't know if it's a short quarterback thing or whatever, but kind of falling off, like starting off red hot as the season starts, just like Russell Wilson over the last 2 years, and falling off a tad. So we'll see how it plays out. And to your point, you're talking about the quick pass game and the lack of a fullback and a tight end as passing options in the audible or the check down game. Packers didn't really utilize the fullback or the tight end that much either. What they did use, the running backs. The running backs for the Packers offense were some of the highest volume pass catchers, targeted players in that Packers team last year. I want to say that A.J. Dillon and Aaron Jones were like the second and third highest targeted players in that offense, with like Devontae Adams getting like 50% of the target share or something crazy. But they really used the running backs in the short, quick pass game, whether it be home run to check down kind of option. So I think that Melvin Gordon definitely is a solid wide receiver. That's something that he does bring to the table. And Javonte Adams, we haven't seen it so much yet. He was obviously the lesser of the two backs at North Carolina when it came to pass catching. Michael Carter was more of the de facto pass catching option. That doesn't mean that Javonte Williams can't do it. I mean, Michael Carter was a third round pick because of some of his pass catching prowess. So will be interesting to see how it goes. We got Bruce Deuce coming in here with, God, what is that picture there, Bruce? It looks like disc golf discs, but I can't know. It's an alien. Okay.
It's an alien type thing.
Well, I thought it was disc golf. I was like, hey, man, that's a good times. I haven't disc golfed in a while because I've supplemented that with hiking out here instead. But good time. I do still have all my discs. Saying because they get shorter over the season. Oh, he's talking about the height. I think it's because
Kyler Murray, yeah.
I think the smaller guys are more likely to sustain injuries over the season, so their play dips a bit. It'd be interesting to see that obviously the sample size. You couldn't really have a very strong power in your statistical analysis of this because the sample size is so small, whether that be the number of quarterbacks, the number of games or whatever. But both those quarterbacks, I mean, if you looked at the first 8 games versus the last 8 games or the last 2 seasons of their play, it's precipitous drop off in form and ability.
And I brought this up just because if you listen to any player and they talk about health, the last half of the season, they all kind of shake their head and say the same thing. Nobody's healthy this time of year. Everybody's beat up in November and December, everybody. And when you rely on your legs as much as Kyler Murray does, this much of a drop off is going to be more effective. And as Falling Sloth says, it could just be Kingsbury too. He always starts hot and then gets exposed as people make their adjustments or whatnot. So it could be a combination in there as well. So a couple of good comments in there. But when you've got a Kyler Murray who needs to use his legs to create throwing lanes at worst and to avoid trouble and get outside the pocket at best, if he slows down even this much, it's going to affect him more than a guy who's 6'5" and can stand in the pocket.
Yeah. No, you are 100% correct in that one. And we had a comment coming in here from Jan Fitz saying the offensive line needs to move forward. And it was on that bit about Russell Wilson, too. They talked about the Russell Wilson needs to be better with his taking of sacks this season. But I think that's part of the deal with Russell Wilson. You're looking for the kill shot and explosive pass plays. It's about, generating those explosive pass plays. And some of that is going to come at the expense of him taking some sacks. It was Joe Burrow a few months ago that talked about, not all sacks are the same. If you get one on third down in your own end of the field, then, who cares? I'd rather sit there and look to make that kill shot or get the first down and take the sack, surrendering 8 to 10 yards. But if you're taking it on first down or getting yourself out of field goal range, it's a different situation. So would be interesting. I'd love to see Pro Football Focus or at some point, maybe categorize sacks differently, put them in 3 different categories of, neutral, negligible,
drive
or
enders.
Detrimental. What was that?
Drive enders.
Yeah. Drive enders
or what takes you out of scoring position, those type of things. Or, again, an incomplete, to your point, if you're 3rd and 10, there's not a huge difference between 4th and 10 and 4th and 18. If you're hanging in there just a little bit longer, you just, the fan in us always says, well, if you thrown the ball, we'd gotten the first down. It's he got the sack because, we're punting because he took a sack. Well, we're punting because he couldn't get the first down. Taking the sack may have just been a bonus, a bonus for the defense.
Held out just to hopefully create something down the field. But the big thing is with the offensive line, and this is I have a different viewpoint than what the article indicates here, where they talk about Russell Wilson and the pass blocking he makes it harder on the pass blockers. I'm okay with that. The big question for me is the offensive line is the run blocking. You need that interior offensive line to be better than they've been. Dalton Reisner, Lloyd Cushenberry, especially that interior guy. Mm-hmm. You have question marks there. So I think with Russell Wilson, you're going to live with some of the sacks because of his greed in the pocket for the big play, which is I'm okay with. But Deshaun Watson does the same thing. Joe Burrow does the same thing. You're seeing it more and more in the NFL because these teams are looking for these kill shots overall. And, hopefully they can get out of it or protect the ball while holding on, not taking the sacks. But still, I think for the offensive line, my biggest thing is, can they come together as a really good run blocking unit? Because again, the short, quick pass game and the run game can be somewhat redundant. You have to have one. And with Russell Wilson's career to date, you probably need the run game.
Well, and last year, again, I'm going to say it again, we can start drinking. This has been my key word is bullied. And it was on both sides of the ball. It seemed like your defense was facing 3rd and 1 or 2 all year. And it seemed like your offense was 3rd and 8 to 10 all year. That's because a running play on first down was 1 yard at best. Incomplete. Usually, if you start with a pass, incomplete, every 2nd and 10 in the world, every single offensive coordinator on earth runs the ball on 2nd down. 99 out of 100 times. It's insane. They really, really are afraid of 3rd and 10. They'd rather see 3rd and 8. We saw a lot of 3rd and 8s last year. So can you get a push on the offensive line? And 3rd and 1, can you convert? Can you convert without having to go to the air? Can you run the ball? The answer to that last year was no. And on the flip side, can you stop someone in that situation? The answer on that question was no. You could probably look this up, but my gut feeling is average scoring drives against the Denver Broncos were longer than most in time, and number of plays were longer than most teams in the NFL. As people just systematically wore their way down the field. And then when you had to score, when you did score, which wasn't very often because you weren't a very good scoring offense in Denver last year, it took a ton of plays and a ton of clock to do it. And there's so many things that can go wrong when you have no explosive play ability. And the more you're in 2nd and short and 3rd and short, the more you're able to get those big, long plays. A 2nd one should be a free play. It should be. A 2nd and 3 should be a free play. And it wasn't. You're in 2nd and long and 3rd and long all year.
Yep. It's hopefully it'll get better this season with Russell Wilson, but we'll see. And guys, we're going to start wrapping up here pretty soon. Jacob Foster coming in. Is this double dipping from Jacob Foster here? God bless, man. Happy Tuesday to us.
The brace. We'll use some international football terms. Jacob Foster with the brace, the 2 times.
God, what is it? If the third one is a turkey, right? Is that,
A
that's
hat trick. The hat trick. I go to hockey for that one, for the hat trick, and then the fourth, the golden sombrero.
No, is that a thing? That's a strikeout thing, right? Is that also
Sometimes,
soccer?
yeah,
Okay.
that's the hat trick of strike, and then you're wearing the golden sombrero. But I don't mind the golden sombrero used as a positive. It's golden. It's a sombrero. That sounds like fun to me.
It does sound fun. Yeah, I'll take 2. Crimson Wolf coming in saying, how do you feel about this year's coaching staff compared to the coaching staff for Vic Fangio and Vance Joseph? More optimistic, but we're in the honeymoon phase right now. Things can change quickly as we gather more data, positive or negative. One thing I do think is that they actually have a chance because they have a quarterback. In today's NFL, if you don't have a quarterback, you're a car stuck in mud. Like you can't go anywhere. Get a little bit of sand in there, whatever. You're going to get stuck again. So feel better about that. Does seem to be a lot more positive energy, definitely more enjoyable for the content creators and just the fans in general. But in the end, it's going to depend on whether they deliver or not. And while they have a better situation because of the quarterback play, expectations are higher as well. So I think the leash that they have is shorter. And there's not really the excuses of, oh, well, they're starting Drew Lock. Oh, well, they're starting Joe Flacco, or they're starting Case Keenum at quarterback. Like, no wonder they can't get wins. So double-edged sword on that one, but feel good, feel excited. And also really enjoying that the players are coming in, seeing they feel the positive energy and whatnot. Maybe that's partially a shot at Vic Fangio out the door because he was so curmudgeon-y and negative. But excited, I think, is the word. Cautiously optimistic is the word I'll use.
7-10 will be deemed a failure, and it's certainly possible. I don't think it's probable, but it is certainly possible. But one thing I feel about this coaching staff is the season will be much more fun.
Yeah.
You don't have a coach on defense who's playing not to lose, and on offense who's playing not to lose, where there's no chances being taken, where, again, it's 3 yards, and, depending on where they're playing, I started calling it a cloud of rubber pellets because of all the field turf fields. And, just trying to eke your way down the field and then let other people eke their way down the field. It was boring. So you weren't just bad, you were boring. And it's not a fun way to watch. This game's supposed to be fun. Next year it's going to be fun. You got a defensive coordinator that wants to attack. You got an offensive coordinator that wants to attack. You got a quarterback that wants to attack. You got receivers that want to catch the ball, not run routes and block, not run, fake jet sweeps and block. It should be fun.
Yeah.
So whether the record shows it, the games should be much more exciting. Even the wins were snooze fests. They for the most part, they weren't fun. This will be fun. We'll have some fun this year.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the highs will be higher and the lows will be lower just because it matters that much more. The emotional state, apathy is out the window. I think apathy was starting to creep in a little bit, not for us because obviously we're here, we're doing a job, but in the fan base in general, I think a little bit of like, God, here we go again. It's like week 2 last year or week 2 years ago.
People weren't showing up.
Yeah.
Nick, you heard me say it before. What's worse than anger is apathy.
Yep.
When people are angry, they still care. When they're apathetic, they've tuned out. That's dangerous to a business. And this is a business. Make no mistake about it. This is big business. Apathy is dangerous to a business. Now, with the passion of the NFL, it's easy to get it back. Hire there, quarterback here, and we're back. There's going to be probably 3 times the fans that are allowed in if they're all allowed in at open practices, and there will not be empty seats in Mile High this year. But apathy is a death blow to a business, and it was becoming apathetic. People weren't even angry anymore. They're just we've got to have change. And that's why I said dead man walking. Halfway through the season, dead man walking. This you can't have this guy come back. The fans have tuned out.
At the Benny Hill music, baby. No. All right, guys. Well, speaking of which, we got to get out of here pretty soon. Dale Fleming coming in and helping us wrap up, saying, great show, Nick and Scott. Thank you, Broncos Country, for the fantastic discussions and awesome support. Thank you, Dale. We appreciate you. Also got Michael Ronquillo coming in saying, great show today, Nick and Scott on Broncos for breakfast. Let's ride and go Broncos. We also got Colin Wood saying, I don't know if it was ignorance or apathy, but I don't know and I don't care.
Yeah, and I don't care enough to find out.
No, but it's a joke.
I know.
Okay.
I know.
There's my ignorance. Well, we appreciate you guys so much. We're going to be getting on out of here. Yeah, I didn't even talk about the Condoleezza Rice stuff. I just kind of. Yeah. Well,
I could look up, but anything that I could tell you about Condoleezza Rice, I'd find on our wiki page. Honestly, she's a very accomplished woman, very smart in several walks of life. I don't know what she's going to do, and she's part of the ownership group. I don't know how she became one. Do you say, okay, we want you to come in and be part of the ownership group? Here's 2% of the team. Thanks. 2% of $5 billion is a nice little gift. Or did she buy her way in to get her 2% or whatever? We don't know. I don't know those things. So what's her role going to be? The talk of politics and sports, yeah, they're intertwined. They're intertwined hugely. The NFL is a multi-billion-dollar business that is tax-free. You don't think that comes into play? You don't think trying to get, new stadiums and permits and all that stuff, you're dealing with local politicians? Yeah, that's all big. And if she becomes a liaison to help make those things happen, a producer of sorts, I'd be hard pressed to come up with a better person than her from what I know about her, which again is fairly limited.
Went to the University of Denver. Obviously extremely accomplished, African-American, woman of color, now in the ownership group for the Broncos. I think it's a it's a good thing. I'm not educated enough on her exact role and whatever in the politics, and that's obviously messy and touchy no matter what. But I guess for some of that overall superficial stuff, it's a good thing with the Broncos, and we'll see where to roll. I know there was a lot of talk about her. Was she involved with the Browns? Or there was a lot of talk about her being involved with the Browns.
The only thing I know for sure was, the college football playoff committee. She was part of the voting process, part of the selection process. Other than that, I don't know. And like I said, if I said last night when it came up, it's like, someone was using that as a detriment as a lifelong Browns fan. I'm like, hell, if you can find someone willing to admit being a lifelong Browns fan, hold on to that person. They're loyal. They're loyal to their core, because it is not easy being that. And everybody grew up fans of somebody. That's just the way it is. Loyalties change when business starts getting involved and it becomes your livelihood. Your loyalties can be put on the back burner, because I'm going to be loyal to who's helping me pay the bills right now.
You guys, Gary Lee Palmer, loyal to you. Thank you so much, Gary, for the support. We appreciate you coming in late, but hopefully you enjoyed the show. And we're going to get on out of here, guys. We will see you again tonight. I'll be back on. I think the internet held up pretty well. So shout out to Xfinity. It's the city wireless network here. So, but hey, it worked out. The Wi-Fi guy is going to come tomorrow. So hopefully it'll still be holding up tonight. It's not just because I'm up early, but we appreciate you guys. Make sure you're following Scott and I on Twitter. Scott is at Scout Kennedy. I'm at Nick Kendell, MHH. Also, make sure you're following us at Huddle Up Pod, as well as at BFB_pod for the Broncos for Breakfast show. Make sure you're checking out huddleuppod.com to check out the gear. I got a couple of the hats prominently displayed up there. I'll switch this one in for the Building the Broncos one this morning, but check out the gear there. Also, make sure you're following us at Mile High Huddle. If you haven't done so yet, make sure you're joining our Facebook communities at facebook.com/Mile High Huddle, as well as facebook.com/Mile High Huddle Pod. And of course, please, if you haven't done so already, click the like button over on Facebook, YouTube. We got an angry react coming in from Kenyon. I don't know what's going on, Kenyon. Hopefully you're doing better. Hopefully you put a smile on your face after the show went on a little bit. But make sure you're liking and sharing these over on Facebook, and make sure you're liking and subscribing over on YouTube. Scott, what's the rest of your day looking like? Is it going to be nice weather out there?
I don't know. Got to get outside. Got to get my walk in. Got to get my workout in. Other than that, we'll kind of play it by ear. So we'll see how it goes. I know that I've got an appointment with y'all at 8:00 on, let's see, it's Tuesday. That means Building the Broncos. So I'll see y'all tonight.
Yes, we will. Well, guys, we appreciate you so much. We will see you tonight. Have a great one. Choose kindness, choose compassion. Go Broncos.